Over the last few years, I've shared a lot of different 3D printable PC cases on this channel. Some were designed for everyday tasks, others for portability, and a few intended for more complex NAS setups. But most of them had one thing in common. They were built around mini ATX motherboards and SFX power supplies, which, as we all know, can be quite expensive. And for a long time, people have been asking me to make something that's more affordable. So, for this project, I set myself a few clear goals. The case had to be built around a micro ATX motherboard with support for a full-size ATX power supply. I also set a goal of a GPU of at least 250mm. To keep it budget-friendly, I also wanted it to support both 3.5-inch and 2.5-inch drives and use standard 120mm fans for airflow. This combo is perfect for anyone looking to find a new home to some older components. And I'm sure that just like me, many of you also have tons of old PC parts floating around. So I launched Shaper 3D, imported 3D models of the parts I wanted to include, and started playing around until I had a layout that worked. What came out of that process was a unique case design, combining wavy patterns, clean modern lines, and minimal details. The design fits right into your on-desk setup, and since it's fully 3D printable, you can customize the colors however you like. And it's even got a built-in headphone holder in the back to keep your desk nice and tidy. The case features a micro ATX motherboard in a standard layout, with an ATX power supply mounted on the upper right side, while still leaving all PCIe slots open for use. Behind the magnetic removable side panel, there's a lot of flexibility. You can build budget-friendly layouts using a stock cooler, or high-performance layouts with a 120mm liquid cooler and dual fans. All this while keeping a relatively compact size, here shown next to a 1kg filament spool. This case was designed entirely in Shaper 3D, and like many of my other projects, it requires a printer bed of only 180 by 180mm, perfect for even a Prusa Mini or similar. And if you've got a larger printer, you can print multiple parts at once. The case colors were inspired by the classic beige and brown of Noctua fans. I first shared this idea back in November on my Discord. Then, right at the start of December, in perfect timing for the project, Prusa coincidentally launched a filament collaboration with Noctua in the exact colors I needed. Since I was already planning to print the main body in Prusa's Galaxy Black PETG, the Noctua combo instantly became the perfect choice. That also meant the entire case would be printed in 100% Prusament by adding in the Noctua Beige and Noctua Brown PLA colors to the build. The rough amount of filament used for this case is about 2.2 kilograms. Via the Printables link below, you'll find a detailed list specifying filament use, print settings, and color assignments for each individual part. When all the parts are printed, we can start preparing them for assembly. For that, we'll need M3 threaded inserts and a soldering iron to melt them into place. We'll also need M3 by 10mm screws and 8 by 3mm neodymium magnets. Optionally, also some superglue to keep the magnets in place. What I've started to do in more recent projects is to include some of the building instructions directly on the parts themselves. For example, these small triangles that point to every hole that needs a threaded insert. Then we have this larger triangle showing the total number of smaller triangles on that specific part. So to prepare each part, it's as simple as inspecting for triangles to know where to melt in place an insert. In the list posted on Printables, there's also a column specifying how many threaded inserts each part requires. Just like the preparation work, the assembly of the parts is just as simple. The parts are clearly marked. For example, this arrow on the main body cross joint just needs to match the arrow on the body itself. Once they line up, you simply slide the pieces together at a 45-degree angle. The main thing to watch out for is that the small indents align so there's no sideways movement. With all 4 of our corner pieces in place, they can be locked using these printed joints. Starting at the top, there's a slim joint that can be gently tapped into position. Make sure to gently tap the joint all the way down until it hits the bottom of the track. Moving to the front, we do the same with this joint, which has a threaded insert on one end and an open hole on the other. This one should be facing the whole side down, and when it's pushed all the way down, it can be locked into place with a screw. For the bottom, we're using feet with 2 screws each to overlap the joint and hold it together. These are secured from the inside of the case, and the remaining 4 feet require just 1 screw each. Next up is the PCIe mounting bracket, which attaches to the main body with 4 screws from the inside. After that, we add either the ATX or SFX power supply mounting bracket. This bracket uses 2 screws at the top and 2 more into the PCIe mount. The last piece of the main body puzzle is a small joint that snaps into place down here, near the I/O shield opening, preventing any sideways movement in the parts. With that, the main body is fully assembled and we're almost ready for the magnetic side panel. But before that, let's take a look at the back side, where we'll see two holes. If you plan to use the headphone holder bracket, two threaded inserts can be added here. The bracket can then be screwed into place. To assemble the magnetic side panel, the procedure is very similar to the main body. Lay out all 4 pieces in front of you, then grab the side panel middle joint, which is again marked with an arrow, as well as the joint tolerance setting. Slide the parts onto the joint at an angle for the lower right, lower left, and upper left pieces. The upper right piece will at first feel loose, and that's fine, because we're going to lock all the panels in place with these tiny joints requiring 2 screws each. These joints actually double as alignment pins with matching indents in the main body to ensure a secure fit. And with all 4 joints in place, the side panel now feels super sturdy. For this next part, we want the case to lay flat in front of us. It's most practical not to have the headphone holder installed during this step. Because now, it's time to push in place the magnets. Here we might need a drop of super glue to ensure a secure fit. To install the magnets, I'm putting a piece of tape on one side of the magnet stack, since all magnets share the same polarity when stacked. That way I know that every magnet pushed into this part will be identical, and we want to finish one side completely before moving on. With a drop of glue, each magnet is pressed into place, and we repeat the process all around the panel. Before moving to the main body, we must move the tape to the opposite side of the magnet stack. Now the tip rejects the magnets on the side panel, which tells us this is the side we want facing down into the opposing part away from the side panel's polarity. Because, as we know, the opposite of rejection is attraction. With the final magnet installed, the main body is nearly complete. There's just one small bracket left, which mounts here and also takes a magnet. This magnet must be installed the same way as the main body. When that's done, we can temporarily set the bracket aside until later while we test fit the side panel to make sure everything lines up and sticks properly. Once that's confirmed, the panel can be set aside too, and we're ready to start installing PC components. Are you enjoying the build so far? Why not consider giving the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you like this project, you'll definitely like some of the other stuff that I have coming up as well. The first component going into the case is the micro ATX motherboard. For this demonstration, I'll be using an Intel Core i9-10900K CPU to show how the case handles high-performance processors. Cooling will be managed by a 120mm Corsair liquid cooler in a push-pull configuration. The AIO liquid cooler attaches to this printed bracket, and with the push-pull setup, we'll use long screws that pass through the bracket and the 120mm fan, securing directly into the cooler. Once that's ready, we can drop the motherboard into place and set the cooler aside while we secure the board. The mounting bracket itself slides into tracks built into the case body. It will later be locked in place with the small magnetic piece we put aside a few steps back. If we want to add a couple front panel USB ports, we can mount the connectors to this printed bracket with some tiny M2 screws that tap directly into the plastic. The bracket can also hold a 12mm power button, and the whole thing then secures to the underside of the main body using 3 screws. The cables can then be fed into the opening at the bottom of the case. To prevent cables from sticking out, secure them with a zip tie through the air intake holes, specifically in the divot around these 4 holes. One potential challenge to keep in mind is that depending on where on the motherboard your USB header is located, you may experience clearance challenges specifically when using a 120mm AIO due to the large 20-pin connector blocking its path. However, the 24-pin motherboard power connector in the same area should fit without any issues as long as it's gently pre-bent to the side like shown here. With a 120mm liquid cooler in a push or push-pull configuration, you can even fit another 120mm intake fan below, or even a 3.5-inch hard drive, if certain criteria are fulfilled. Some newer motherboards that have side-facing SATA ports may cause clearance issues with the connectors if using a 3.5-inch drive in the lower slot, as the drive itself may block the cable path. However, you can still fit the drive if you use the upper slot instead, but it will replace the liquid cooler completely. The lower slot does, on the other hand, support a 2.5-inch drive or a 120mm intake fan without blocking potential side-facing ports. Though, in my build, I'll be using the liquid cooler option, followed by plugging in the remaining cables and mounting the ATX power supply. To secure any front-mounted parts, both the lower and upper slot mounts are clamped in place with this little magnet bracket. Moving over to the PCIe slots, all slots are available to use in this case, depending on whether you use bottom intake fans or not. Just to demonstrate, I'm here installing a single slot card in the bottom slot, showing that it works while still leaving room for a GPU. You can also add 2 bottom intake fans instead for maximum GPU cooling. These can be complemented with fan guards that mount in place with normal fan screws, before the fans can be mounted through holes in the underside of the case. The GPU can then be installed and secured to the PCIe bracket. After plugging in the PCIe power, you'll see the fan guards do a great job of keeping cables out of the blades. The only thing left is to address the power supply sag, which if left like this would get progressively worse over time. And that's where this small support piece comes in. It slides under the power supply and provides structural support. To maximize the use of available space, there's also a version that can hold a slim 2.5-inch drive or SSD up to 10mm, while still supporting the weight of the power supply. Finally, the side panel can be dropped into place, and our build is now complete. For this project, I wanted to create something compact and functional, that also had a unique look to it. By combining features from previous builds with new details and colors, the result came out even better than I envisioned. With the right color combo, it blends nicely into any desk setup, and all layouts I tested also performed surprisingly well. For the performance testing, I'll be using 3 different layouts to give you the best possible expectations based on the parts you have available, starting with the budget-friendly layout where we have an ATX power supply, a 2.5-inch SSD, and 4 intake fans while using a stock AMD Wraith Stealth cooler on a Ryzen 7 5700G. During a Cinebench stress test on the CPU, we're looking at a maximum temperature of around 81 degrees, which is a little bit hot, but far within safe operating temperatures. Moving over to the mid-range setup, we'll now be using an SFX power supply, and it only takes 4 screws to swap to our SFX bracket. For this setup, we're using a much more powerful air cooler, the Noctua NHL12S, and we're seeing a maximum temperature of only 62 degrees, with an average around 56 degrees on the i5-10400 CPU while keeping noise levels at a minimum. With this setup, I still had about 15mm of extra cooler clearance, so I tried adding a second slim 120mm fan for a push-pull config on the cooler and was able to push the temperature even lower to a peak of 58 degrees, with an average of only 52 degrees with that same cooler. Over to the high-performance layout, we're using an ATX or SFX power supply paired with a push-pull config on the 120mm AIO on an Intel Core i9-10900K. We're seeing an initial peak of 82 degrees as the pump needs some time to circulate the coolant, but quickly settles at around 68 degrees on average for the remaining duration of the test. This proves that even high-power CPUs can perform well in this case. When it comes to GPU temperatures, most GPUs will perform well here. With the dual bottom intake fans, the GPU will get tons of fresh air, and when running a Cinebench GPU stress test, the single fan 1660 Super GPU peaked at just under 64 degrees with an average closer to 60. The same test was also performed on the much more powerful 5070 Founders Edition, and here again we're seeing a peak of just under 62 degrees with an average closer to 60 as well. Performance-wise, I could not have been happier with the results, proving that the case can perform well with pretty much any part combo you can fit. And even though it may appear big on camera, it's actually surprisingly compact. Again, here next to a standard 1kg spool of filament. And here, next to my super compact backpack-friendly PC case from my last video. I would love to hear your feedback about this build, as well as your future project suggestions down in the comments section below. If you're interested in building this project for yourself or a friend, check out the files over on Printables, where you'll also find full detailed part lists and building instructions to ensure a smooth experience from start to finish. If this project isn't the one for you, feel free to also check out some of the other available projects. If you enjoyed watching this project build, I'd highly appreciate a thumbs up as it helps the video reach new audiences, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more new and innovative projects in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to seeing you back in my next video.